Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn medieval studies. Today, Henry III. And after we've done that, we're gonna do stretching, and if you participate in the stretching, then it's väldigt jävligt. Henry III. He was King of England from 1260 and 1272. He was King of England, Ireland, and parts of France. Married to Eleanor, the daughter of Raymond the Berenger IV, the Count of Provence. 6 sons, including the next king Edward I, and 3 daughters. Edward I. And parents were King John and Isabel of Angoulême. John's son became king at the age of 9. So the son of John became king. John, the brother of Richard I, of Richard Lionheart. John's son became king at the age of 9, but did not take on the government of England until 1227. John, was it written? Nothing written to John. John dies unexpected at Newark at a fever. There is a Newark in England. I knew just about one of in the United States. Okay. During his childhood, his kingdom, so Henry III, was governed by regents, William the Marshal and Hubert de Burgh. Both men dealt successfully with the attempts of a French Dauphin, later Louis VIII, to take England by force. Is the French Dauphin the word for in France a person who is becoming the next king, the heir? I don't know. It's just the second time used, and this will fit. On reaching his 20th year, Henry dismissed the Burgh and appointed Peter de Revaux as Chancellor and Peter de Hauteuil as Bishop of Winchester. Okay, he was 9 when he became king, but it was ruled by William the Marshal and Hubert de Burgh. Both were able to repel inventions, whatever they were, to take England by force, so invasion or the attempts to take England by force by the French, later than King Louis VIII. Then he dismissed them on his 20th birth, at least one of them, and Peter de Revaux became Chancellor and Peter de Roche as Bishop of Winchester. The appointment of Frenchmen to important posts did not please the barons who rebelled under William Marshal, Earl of Pembroke. William the Marshal, that must be the same one. So the person who was previously one of his 2 regents who were ruling instead of him because he was a child, got support by the barons who did not like that. Now Henry III, when he was ruling, appointed 2 people who had French, who were French as Bishop of Winchester and Chancellor. Their revolt did not succeed, but there was another more valiant opponent waiting to oppose the king. This was Simon de Montfort, Earl of Leicester, who was married to Eleanor, Henry's sister, and obliged him to sign yet another document to limit his power. Why should he do that? Was he thinking that he was the rightest king as the son of probably Richard I? Okay. So he should sign a letter. Previously was he said that John, his father, had to sign the Magna Carta, limiting his power compared to in comparison to the barons. This was the provisions of Oxford, which, having signed, Henry repudiated. I don't know what the word means. A civil, okay, whatever, he should sign something and it wasn't really happening or something wasn't really working out, and no civil war broke out. And Henry was defeated at Lewes in 1264. After his victory, de Montfort called together a parliament, but differences of opinion between its delegates doomed it to failure. Henry's son Edward now entered the fray and killed de Montfort in battle at Evesham in 1265, and thus ended the first attempt at parliamentary government. The next chapter is about government. I don't know, maybe we're going to do it in political science, but maybe also in medieval studies. Okay, there was his brother, There was not his brother. There was his sister, who was married to another person, who won in the Civil War and started to build a parliament, which didn't work out. And so the son of Henry III, Edward I, defeated him. He died in battle, the one married to Henry III's sister, and Parliament was in its first attempt ended. Earlier in his reign, Henry had also been faced by a Welsh revolt under Owen Glendower, who had survived and kept North Wales independent for 11 years with French help. I don't know exactly the number, but in the 13th century were the Statutes of Rutland, which annexed Wales to belong to England. Okay, whatever. There was also in Wales people opposing Henry III, and there was Owen Glendower, who for 11 years kept ruling against the will of Henry III in North Wales. But now he did it with the help of the French, but now he was overpowered. It wasn't written here. Just that who had survived and kept for 11 years. That implicates that it had no end, but it's not written here. Though not a clever or forceful king and prone to offending friends and enemies alike, Henry's reign was one of political progress and prosperity. Henry encouraged learning and free Oxford colleges. There are multiple colleges in Oxford. Henry encouraged learning and free Oxford colleges were found. How did they all not succeed and had to be re-established? Henry encouraged learning and free Oxford colleges were founded in his reign. The arts of writing and illustration flourished, notable in the persons of Matthew Paris, the historian who drew up the first map of England. Despite all the difficulties he faced during his reign, Henry died in 1272, leaving behind him a kingdom that was prosperous, united, and prepared to accept the rule of his son Edward I. Okay, I'm saying there were trouble. There was, for example, Civil War, and he was defeated. But at the end of the day, it was a prosperous kingdom, which he passed on to his son Edward I. Henry III had a few of the personal qualities required to command respect. He always seemed to alienate enemies and advisors alike. What does it mean to alienate enemies? However, in some way he redeemed himself by patronizing the arts and inspiring improvements to Westminster Abbey and the construction of Salisbury Cathedral. Now, 1216. Henry III is crowned King of England at the age of 9 upon the death of his father John. England is temporarily ruled by two regents, William the Marshal and Hubert de Burgh. 1 year later, Battle of Lincoln in May. Battle of Dover in August. The French under Louis, later Louis VIII, are driven out of England. The Treaty of Lambeth establishes peace between France, the English barons and supporters of Henry. William the Marshal dies. They rebelled under William Marshal. Henry III was born 1207, became king when he was 9216. In the year 1219, when William Marshal died, he was just 12 years old. Therefore, the rebellion under William Marshal was probably not done under the leadership of William Marshal, but against William Marshal. It doesn't really make sense otherwise, but that still gives up the question. How dare I say? It gives up the question. It throws up the question. It delivers the question. That brings us to the question: why is here first said that he reached his 20th year, and in the next sentence, then rebelled under William Marshal? He reached his 20th year in 1227, but already in 1219 William the Marshal died. Okay, 1227. Henry takes full control of the government of England, but retains Hubert de Burgh as his principal advisor. 5 years later, Peter de Revaux is appointed treasurer of England, and Hubert de Burgh is dismissed. 4 years later, Henry marries Eleanor of Provence, and 3 of her uncles become ministers in England. That actually makes sense politically. It would be possible that there was a situation in which it made sense. 1264, the Barons' war breaks out and Henry is defeated by de Montfort at the Battle of Lourdes. 1 year later, de Montfort summons the first English parliament but is killed at Evesham during a battle. And 1272, Henry III dies in the Palace of Westminster and is buried at Westminster Abbey. Okay, that was the medieval studies part. If you were here for medieval studies, you can go directly to the next part, where we're gonna go back, and I don't know how far back. I think Henry II, or to Henry Plantagenet, or it was Eleanor of Aquitaine, I think, back. And when we try to make a presentation about each of these persons, at one time we're gonna go back and also to Henry III, and make a presentation about Henry III. If you stay here and participate in the stretching and the feet are standing together, outward 1 foot and the other one. Heels, heels, toes, toes, and so on as far as you can go. And begin again. Toes, toes, heels, heels. Up again. Legs to the sides, in the arms up. Out to the side. In up. Out to the other side. In. Out. In and upward catch. Out. Again in. Out, the other hand slides down. Again in. Out. In. Out. And the arms up. And out. In. Out. And shoulder seconds. Shoulders in front, up, back, and down. And the other way around, back, up, front, down. And shoulders up. And out, let them fall down. In and up. Out and down. And the arms up. And we reach all this with one arm high up. Tend to take an apple hanging high on an apple branch, to turn it a bit around and then to rip it out. Legs to the sides, arms to the sides, breathe in, out over to one side. In middle, out to the other side. In middle, and out lean onto the knees. Breathe in, and out one shoulder in front. Back, out the other one. Back, and out and we're hanging down. Breathe again in, out over to one leg. Again in, out over to the other one. Again in, out into the middle, and close the feet. Breathe in, and out. Again in, and out. Come slowly the front back up at the top of the backward shoulder drop. The feet are standing a bit to the outside, in the arms up. And out and sink down, elbows against the inside of the knees. Breathe in, straighten up. And out and come with the back up. Breathe in. Out and down. In and straighten up. Out, come slowly in, one straight line up. Hands down. Have a good standing leg, the heel of the other one on top of a knee of it. Breathe in, out and down. Up again and change. And out and down. And up. Legs to the sides, breathing in out. And out, open the chest to the sky. In, out and down, and up and around. Out, in, out, in, and close the legs, and again out. That was the stretching. I thank you very much, and at the next time.